Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the video. This video, I will be talking about some of the challenges that usually I have observed, while working on certain projects with massive projects, terabyte worth of data, with on S3, right? So the challenges that I want to discuss here is essentially when we were using S3, Athena, and QuickSight. So, we essentially had some processes that essentially takes the data from various sources and dumps the data into the S3 data lake. And these data are essentially partitioned by year, month, and day. Now, once these data are here, then we essentially have glue jobs. The glue jobs essentially picks up these data, and they essentially compress it into a larger chunk of files into Parquet and Snappy compression. Why? Because this allows us to achieve about a 90% cost saving and nearly 60 times faster Athena's queries, right? Now, one of the challenges using Athena is every time you run a query on Athena, the results is not cached, which means if I have to select everything from X table, then it's gonna scan all the table and the data, it's still gonna scan all the data. Now, as you can see, at this current point, as far as I know, there is no, Athena does not allow you to, or does not have an ability to cache the queries, which means, well, when I send a query, the query gets executed on the Athena engine and then it dumps the result on S3. So now, as you see, right, every time if I run the same query, I'm still scanning the data, which means I'm increasing the cost. Now here comes the next challenge, right? When we connect AWS QuickSight with Athena directly, right, to build a BI dashboards. So the challenge that we have here now is essentially, well, now you're using Athena at the back, right? Now an Athena doesn't cache. So every time you run any, you build your BI dashboard, and every time you refresh your dashboard, it's gonna run the SQL query, and then again, it's gonna cost you money, right? Because those queries are not cached essentially. So that's the problem. Well, now in QuickSight, we could use Spice, right? But that again comes with a cost, right? Now the next solution is essentially, hey, well, I could use essentially S3 and QuickSight directly. Yes, you are right. But here is the challenge now there. With S3 and QuickSight, it is good for small data set, but if you have a terabyte and petabyte scale of data, the problem is to create manifest file. Now, as you know, on S3, we do not have an ability to essentially generate those S3 manifest file. I'm not talking about the inventory manifest file, right? The one that you go on the console and generate an inventory manifest file. Those manifest files are not compatible with QuickSight because they has to be in a particular format. Now the challenge is if you have a million objects on S3, are you gonna write a for loop and iterate over all the object and then populate the uh, URI? Not the best solution, right? Like, no, I don't think so. That works pretty well because if you have million objects, the time space complexity is O of n, right? Because a number of objects you have to iterate and then you have to populate an array of keys, right? Not the best solution. Well, but here I could write a glue job and compress and create massive chunk of file instead of the smaller files like 20, 30 GB per each Parquet file. Yeah, but again, as time grows, as the lake grows, again, is that solving the problem? No, that's not solving the problem, right? So now what is the solution? Well, one possible solution is, well, move the data to a warehouse, right? Essentially, so something like Redshift, right? Because then essentially build your dashboard based on Redshift, because then you're paying a standard cost for your Redshift cluster, right? Athena is great. It's serverless, but when you start running all these queries, there's a massive bills, right? It doesn't come cheap, right? I know, like, for small workload, but if you have a workload for terabyte scale of data and if you have 60, 70 tables on Athena, you might want to think again, unless and until the company is okay with spending that much money. So here are some of the the topics that I want to cover. Some of the challenges while using Athena, QuickSight. But if you opt for S3 backend, then the problem comes with the manifesto file, because every time your processes are gonna producers are gonna produce data and gonna pump it into the data lake, and now again you gotta update those manifest file, right? So it is a challenge, right? It is a challenge. So I think the best solution in my scenario would be a Redshift cluster. Having a Redshift cluster put the files on S3, then essentially convert those files into Parquet, and then use essentially a Redshift copy command, or maybe use a glue to the dump data from your S3 to Redshift, right? That's the way I see all these problems could be solved easily. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. I'm more than happy to hear your feedbacks on this topic. So these are some of the things personally I think that while choosing, as I said, right, because Athena, right, you gotta run glue crawlers and then it's gonna populate these tables, and then again every time you run the same query there is a cost associated. Now someone might say, yeah, but can't you create an API? And then, well, now take a look at this. If I create an API and if I had to return that, there's a lot of dev effort to that, right? Then I have to either use Dynamo or some sort of stuff where I store the keys and the query. So I create a hash of a query, and then essentially where it dumps the file, I need to store the key in the Dynamo or Redis or Memcache, whatever that is, right? There is an effort, right? Not an easy flow, right? So yeah, let me know your thoughts on the comment section below. More than happy to listen what you guys have to say on this particular topic. Thank you so much, and I would see you guys in the upcoming next video.